Useful impressions. On any number of occasions, I have gone into situations which ultimately did not work out the way I would have liked, and yet my favorable impression of the other party, how he or she handled the situation, made me want to deal with the person again. This has often led to opportunities that did work, and which more than compensated for any initial disappointments. When we first tried to represent Chris Evert in 1975, she decided to remain independent. But in the course of our series of meetings, I was impressed with her character and her directness and the way she handled herself that I was convinced that there was a rightness to the relationship and determined that one day we would represent her. 5 years later, she became a client. I have also come out of other situations and thought, boy, am I glad that's over? And while I have never unilaterally decided that I would not deal with someone again under any circumstances, with some people, those circumstances would have to be very special. When I was young, I was more impressed by outward factors, money, power, and glamour. But as I grow older and theoretically wiser, I have come to appreciate the importance of business character and other inner qualities and to see the relative insignificance of outward glitter, whether it be celebrity, position, or appearances. People who are impressed by the superficial should make you wonder how easy it would be to pull the wool over their eyes in a business dealing. Be alert to the business acquaintance who refers to his very close friend, usually someone whose name is calculated to impress or implies that he has a strong personal relationship with a particular associate. If you happen to know the person being claimed as a friend, you might want to get that person's version of the relationship. If it turns out that they have met only once or twice, you might start thinking more about the accuracy of his other statements. I once called an employee on this. A man I knew had never met the person he was referring to as his best friend. He gave me one of the best comebacks I have ever heard. What I meant, he said, is that he is one of my best phone friends. The people who work with someone can provide revealing information about that person. A secretary, for instance, who makes a strong impression may help you form a perception of his or her boss. The same thing goes for other subordinates. I had a series of meetings with a high-ranking executive at a well-known sporting goods company. He had a reputation as fairly competent, but he seemed totally cowed and reluctant to commit to even the most mundane details. When I met with his boss, the company's chairman, I was prepared for what I found, a man who wasn't very good at delegating. People within a corporation tend to pick up many of the characteristics of their superiors. If you know their boss, you can learn quite a bit by judging how well they have adopted their boss's strengths and assets. Several years ago, I was having lunch in Australia with the director of one of the major television stations there. He was a well-known figure in his own right, but his boss, the owner of an international communications conglomerate, was one of the most powerful and recognizable men in all of Australia. I had lunched with the director's boss on a score of occasions and knew that he never signed a restaurant bill. At the end of the meal, he would simply get up and leave. It was probably a vanity, albeit an impressive one. Either he had an account with every restaurant in Australia, or his habit was so well known that any restaurant he patronized knew to bill his office. In any event, the day of our lunch, the station director adopted this particular habit of his superior. As I was about to ask for the bill, the director announced it had already been taken care of. Then with some flourish he got up from the table and walked out of the restaurant. The only problem was that he was not nearly as well known as his boss. Much to his embarrassment, an anxious matron who thought the man was trying to jump payment, chased him down the street. Obviously, there are no hard and fast rules for reading people or gaining insight into their personalities beneath their corporate disguises. But if a point of reference exists, if there is some basis for comparison, either to a situation or to other people, examine it. See what evidence it might turn up.